If I was a dog, I'd bite. If I was a cat, I'd scratch. If I was a horse, I'd kick. If I was a bird, I'd peck a worm and make it squirm. If I was a lion, I would kill that cub that I had born. And when its eyes my claws had torn, I'd toss my head and laugh, because I knew that I was free. When I am free, don't shake your head. I know I'm dead.
She was a most attractive girl because she was intelligent, she was insightful, she was loving, she was responsive. And her anger was genuine as her love was genuine. And she had a high sense of justice in many ways. She would say things like, I know I'm awful and I know he's being naughty, but you ought to be kind to him. She was well aware of other people's difficulties as well as her own. She was acutely sensitive to other people's feelings. And she had the kind of longing for what was good that mobilized one's feeling for her. She was a child who touched one very immediately and very deeply.
Gale Parsons was only 19 when she died, certain that no one loved her, certain no one cared whether she lived or not. All of us, not just those close to her, share the blame for her death. They found her body in a derelict basement off the Thames embankment. When Gale retreated here from the world she believed had no place for her, the woman who knew her best, Mrs. Nancy David, had feared the worst. A police message proved her right. Gale Parsons, young heroin addict, was dead.
Oh, that's terrible. Is this where she was?
This is where she was found.
Oh, it's horrible, isn't it? Oh. Oh, my God.
Had you any idea she was in a place like this?
No, I hadn't. And I never knew before, except just that I just got told she'd been found dead. But this is dreadful, isn't it? That's it. She would be like that.
Why do you say that?
Well, she wouldn't care. I mean, the last time I saw her, I don't think she would even know. She would be so completely under the influence of drugs. She wouldn't know. She wouldn't know where she was. She wouldn't see anything.
But you forecast an end like this.
I did, and I would, you know, really, it's horrifying, but it's just about it.
Gale Parsons never had a chance. As a baby, she was unwanted. Her mother put her into a children's home when she was only 6 months old, and from then on, there was no lasting link with the one woman children need most, a mother. She grew up looked after by one substitute mother after another. She posed readily for the occasional institutional photograph, but at an age when most children are assured of love, young Gale had to fight for her share of affection in a children's home. What she liked best as a little girl were those occasions when she had the chance to be with her mother on a rare outing together. Gale was proud at moments like this when her mother stood beside her. Most of the time, young Gale lived with 250 other boys and girls, separated for one reason or another from their parents, and put away in one of Britain's biggest welfare institutions, Beechholm, a kind of children's town offering as much help and hope as this kind of artificial life can muster. The one man in her life, she was illegitimate and never knew her father, was the principal of Beechholm, Geoffrey Banner. Did he try to get the mother and child together again outside the institution?
Oh, all the time. And certainly after she'd reached us at the age of 9 for the first time, this was happening all the time. I interviewed the mother regularly, and one tried to adjust the mother's attitude to the child so that they could come together. There was not a great deal of real contact between them.
What do you mean by adjusting the mother's attitude?
Well, the mother was unrealistic about the child. She was much more concerned with superficial things like the way she spoke, the way she ate, the clothes she wore. When in point of fact, we were much more concerned about relationships between the mother and the child.
And what sort of things did you say to the mother to try and affect this reconciliation?
Well, I would say to her, never mind about what she wears. This is important in the long run, but it isn't important at the moment. The real important thing is that you've come to visit her and that she feels that you care about her. At the moment, she doesn't think you care. And the more you talk about superficial things, like what she eats and the way she wears and the way she speaks, she is not likely to feel that you really care.
But how important did you feel was the need for the link between the mother and the child? I mean, did you really try hard to do this?
Oh, very. Well, it's absolutely essential. You see, here was a child who was likely to break away from contact and reject the mother altogether. She believed in her heart, subconsciously, that the mother had already rejected her. And if the truth be known, she probably had. And therefore it was, if we were to have any sort of future, we had to maintain this contact. But it wasn't easy, on either side.
Gale's mother went to her daughter's funeral, but for the last 15 months she hadn't even known where Gale was. She feels that people will blame her for the circumstances that led to her daughter's death more than any of the other factors, and she still finds it easy to believe that everybody else was to blame but her. And because it was not our purpose to apportion blame, we disguised the mother's identity in an interview when this film was first shown. But since then, she's decided she doesn't even want to be seen again, and we've respected that wish. She herself went to a public school, and she's quick to blame the children's homes for the life Gale later led. For by the time Gale was 11, she was so disturbed she needed the help of a special school. It was one of 14 institutions she was eventually moved on to. Almost all of her childhood was to be spent behind tall railings or high walls, even behind bars. Mary Evans, her head mistress at that first special school, had extraordinary patience. Gale once bombarded her with bricks. Her victim survived and overlooked the assault. The little girl was impressed, and after that, to the end of her life, she always wanted to look good in Mrs. Evans' eyes.
By the time she was about 13, 14, in school, I'm not talking about outside, she was presenting as a much more settled girl with some hope of making a career, and a girl who, instead of wanting a gun, as she did the first Christmas, suggested that I bought her something dainty, suitable for a girl, on her second Christmas. She'd made considerable strides.
But she was thinking about the future at that time.
She did think about the future.
And a career.
And a career. Because,
what did she want to do then?
Well, she used to think about being an air hostess, not in the way girls do for the glamour, because she thought it would get her to America, and she might find her father if she went to America, because she thought her father was an American, and she wanted to find him. But in a more realistic way, she and I discussed her working with small children in children's homes, and we had a lot of interesting discussion about how she would treat them, what sort of an adult, what sort of a loving adult, and what sort of a controlling adult she would be. I must say that I felt when she was 14, if only we could at that stage have found a boarding school. But you see, it isn't easy to find anywhere for a girl of 14, because obviously the boarding school tends to feel, well, we haven't time. And I wasn't thinking in terms of a special school, because I felt she needed a new start with normal girls.
But it was back to Beach Home for Gale. As no normal school was said to be available, she had to be put with children who couldn't be coped with in ordinary schools, and she came under the care of Nancy David, a woman who has a remarkable way with children who, like Gale, can be difficult, easily distressed, abusive, even violent.
Flower.
Surprised it wasn't. Give us a little edge to him.
Things.
Now, if you get the last one, you can have a toffee apple.
Clothes.
Okay, right.
Gale didn't have a father of her own.
No, she's never known a father. In fact, apart from the odd house father whom she's met and one or two male figures in other establishments where she's been, I suppose I was the only constant male figure.
How important do you think you were to Gale?
Oh, I think I was very important, actually. She was ready to reject me from time to time, but there was never any doubts that I mattered and that what I had to say mattered. I had some influence with her.
But in the end, even you rejected her.
Oh, yes, we did, and to our shame.
But why did you do this?
Well, we did so because throughout the last period she was here, she was having a very unfortunate effect upon other children, and we saw other children going down in the process. And this is a very unhappy dilemma that anybody running an establishment has, that you have to choose sometimes between your need and understanding to help the individual and the effect the individual may have upon the group. And unhappily, we reached the point when Gale's influence on the group was unfortunate, to say the least, and very damaging. And unhappily, we had to choose, and we chose to reject her.
She was now 16, classed as beyond control and sent to an approved school near Warwick, but they couldn't hold her there either. She used to run away, and each time after she'd been on the run a few days and nights, she'd turn up on Mrs. David's doorstep, cold, hungry, and defeated, looking for warmth and comfort and a very different world from the only one she'd known so far. But at home, away from her job at Beach Home, Mrs. David had her own family to look after. Her dog Blackie was a favourite of Gale's, and she envied the home life of the Davids, although she thought them above her. But for all that, she knew she'd always be welcome, as long as the law allowed.
I took her all the way back to Warwick myself once to prove to her that she did have somebody, and to prove to the other girls in the place that she was not a girl without anybody. And I remember where we made it was a terribly hot day, and we made this long, long journey up the M1 on a lovely afternoon. We arrived in this place in the very late, too late for lunch. And this girl and I had got into a reasonable frame of mind to go back. And on arrival, although she was courteously received, she was immediately whipped away and put into solitary confinement. And I was quite appalled about this, that this girl had been taken from me without ceremony, not roughly handled, but quite courteously and cold-bloodedly put into solitary confinement. And after I had taken tea very graciously with a most charming headmistress, whom I felt all the time didn't really subscribe to the system she'd inherited, she took me to say goodbye to Gale. And there she was, upstairs in an attic room, where there would have been no escape, with nothing in this room but a mattress on the floor and a bucket where she had to go to the toilet. And that was it. She was shut in that room with a mattress on the floor and a bucket, and that was her punishment.
A few months later, Gale was moved on again, this time to a mental hospital. She was placed in a ward with elderly, disturbed patients, though no one seems to know why. She ran away as fast as her young legs could carry her, back to Mrs. David's house.
For 1 whole week, this girl was here in the house, and neither the approved school nor the mental hospital would accept the responsibility for this girl. Both argued it was the others to remove her, and all the time she was here. Had I not been prepared to have her, she would have been at the mercy of whoever happened, because no one ever on one occasion checked where she was or what kind of a setup she was in. In fact, when eventually a quite high-ranking Home Office official, at the request of the CID, instructed the mental hospital to collect her, they came down here and they said we had no idea what to expect at all. And in fact, they had come with a straitjacket prepared to have to remove her. And I was very indignant when they came to the door this day. It was 11 o'clock at night, and Gale had been sitting ready to leave since 10 in the morning. And I had packed sandwiches in a Tupperware box for her. And I said to her, now when they come, you put coffee out for them and receive them in a proper manner, which she did. And they couldn't believe that this was the girl they'd been sent to collect.
A few weeks later, Gale was moved on again to Farringdon House, an approved school where the rules are rigidly applied in isolated South Devon.
Dear Mrs. David, I hope you're keeping well as I am. I would have wrote before, but I wasn't allowed to. It's stricter here than it was at Knoll Hill. I'm only allowed to write to my mother, really, but as I don't write to her, they let me write to you, and I hope you will write back to me. But I'll quite understand if you don't. I can only write letters on a Sunday. I have been here 2 weeks, and I haven't had any letters since I've been here. I'm only allowed 1 parcel a month, no matter how big or small it is. Give my love to the kids at school and Mr. and Mrs. Banner, and please explain that I would write to them if I could, but maybe when I've been here a little bit longer, they may let me. There are 60 girls here, and it's like a farm. I remember you once said I would do well on a farm. I think I will get on better here than I would have at Knoll Hill. It was too easy, really. I often think of the little kids in Beach Home. If you have some photos, could you please send me them? Loads of love, Gale. P.S. I hope you haven't forgotten me. Please write back.
And I sent the parcel, and it will give, I can remember clearly that it was, I sent it in a Dunlop plimsoll shoebox belonging to a child in the orchard that had had a pair of new plimsolls in, and we packed this little box up together with 3 comics. One of them was Marilyn, one was Mirabelle, and something other that she was rather keen on at that time. She was only 16, you see. And about 2 shillings worth of small sweets, you know, the kind of things you get on what I call a penny tray. And I got a letter back from the headmistress saying, in future would I kindly not send such lavish parcels to Gale, that in future she should have, she had everything she needed, and that in future I was to send things like soap, but under no circumstances talcum powder, because these were all that Gale needed. And I was so shocked. I've made up my mind. I've still got that letter. I was so shocked about it that I thought, well, here is a grossly deprived girl. A few sweets were a very comforting thing. And this girl who had no background, nobody, you would have thought they would have been so pleased that someone should send a parcel from a place which was a link with her past, which she so desperately needed. But all I got was this chilling and chilly letter. Oh, and the thing which really made me angry about that letter was, and only the better kind of magazine. What do you call the better kind of magazine? The Lady?
Dear Mrs. David, I had a fight the other day and now I'm locked up for it. I don't know how long I have to stay locked up, but I don't care. They can keep me in here forever and I still wouldn't care. We have to wear the uniform all the time. I'm not allowed to write to Mary, and I bet she will think I've forgotten her. So if you see her, please explain to her that I can't write. No, I'm not working on the farm, I'm in the kitchen. I'm only a red badge, and you have to be a yellow or green badge before you can go onto the farm or gardens. You have to be here at the very least 2 months before you can have anyone visit you, and at least 6 before your visitor can take you out. I'm sorry I didn't write last week, but I can only write 1 letter, and I had to answer my child care officers. I miss you, and I wish I was back at Beach Home. Please give my love to Glenwyn, Mr. David, Blackie, and all at the orchard. Well, please write to me again soon. Loads of love, Gale. P.S. Do you think you could send me some photos of the little ones, as I have been talking about them, and I would like to show everyone what they're like. Write soon, Gale.
Her next home, Exeter Prison, waiting to be moved on, this time to Borstal. At Farringdon House, she'd fought authority and wouldn't give in. In court, they called her grossly undisciplined.
Dear Mrs. David, well, as you can see by the paper I'm using, I'm in Exeter Prison waiting till I go to a Borstal. I guess I knew it had to happen sooner or later, and now it has. I'm really sorry that it has, but I suppose I've just got to face up to it now. I don't know how long I will have to do at Borstal, but I guess it'll be up to me now. Please don't stop writing to me, and please don't disown me, because you're the one person that I really do care about. I haven't had a letter from you lately, but I think Mrs. Drysdale wouldn't let me have any letters from you the last few weeks I was at Farringdon, because I was kept locked up in solitary confinement till I went to court. When I went to court, nobody came on my side, not even my welfare officer. I felt really awful. I was really scared when I first got here, but everyone has been quite all right to me so far, and I feel a lot better now. Well, enough of my troubles. How are they all at Beach Home? How are the little kids in Ash? I wanted to work with children, but I don't suppose I'll be able to now. Still, you never know. How are everyone at Sutton Grove? I hope they're all keeping well. Give my love to Blackie. Loads of love always, Gale. P.S. I miss you very much, and I really am sorry. so please write back to me soon. Gale.
Gale was never to see the kids at Beach Home again. From Exeter, she went for Borstal training. They moved her on for this to Holloway Prison and put her in a cell.
I think that the best and most humane care probably she had from the time she left us was in Holloway. I really believe that that was the happiest and the most humane patch after she left Beach Home.
The girl, whose ambition had been to look after children, was now locked up with the women who were later to introduce her to drugs. But Gale knew nothing of the danger at the time.
Dear Mrs. David, thank you very much for your 2 letters. I didn't know that you'd been to Czechoslovakia. Why didn't you write and tell me? I was ever so worried. You know what I'm like, always think the worst. It's not too bad here, not half as bad as I thought it was going to be. In a way, it's better here than it was in Farringdon. Anyway, I can have people visit me here, and I can have anyone write to me. I've just been sticking pictures on my wall. I've got some great ones of Twiggy. If you can, I hope you will come and see me while I'm in here. I don't suppose my mother would want to come. Love to Blackie. Loads of love, Gale. P.S. Write soon. I miss you very much.
Well, she came out of prison on her 18th birthday, and she came into London on a Saturday with a warrant to travel and 30 shillings from the aftercare people on a Saturday afternoon, went into this hostel. A job had been found for her, and the hostel had been found for her. She'd never seen either. She met their friends who had been in Borstal with her, and one of them happened to be a drug addict. She had been found a job as a petrol pub attendant and was due to start work at night. These girls said, oh, don't go to work tonight, your first night out and so on. You come up to Piccadilly with us. And this girl went up to Piccadilly, and there she was given drugs. She told me this herself many times since, that on that night these friends gave her drugs, heroin mainly. And she returned to the hostel the next day, and she was turned out of the hostel along with her friend on the grounds that they would not keep drug addicts. And they left, and they began to sleep in Piccadilly, and they began to live there and take drugs from people who gave them drugs. And within a matter of 3 weeks, at this very crucial time, no one knew where she was. No one knew anything about where she was. I used to think about it, but I don't think anyone was caring. I know no one was caring because she was only a name to the probation officer. How could she be caring about someone who really was only on the fringe of an enormous caseload?
Gale's decline was rapid. A heroin addict living rough in the streets of London can't last long. When she needed sleep, she went to the ladies' lavatory under Piccadilly Circus. She slept in what the women addicts knew as number 1 toilet. After 18 months as an addict, Gale almost died. In Charing Cross Hospital, Mrs. David was told she'd been found unconscious in the street, and the hospital diagnosed septicemia. She'd injected herself with a dirty needle. Mrs. David visited her. It was here in hospital that Gale talked to us 10 months ago when we were making a program about the effects of institutional life. We didn't know then that Gale herself was right when she said that only death was left. During the time that you were in the children's homes, did you ever try to get in touch with your mother?
I don't think so. I don't know. I think I did, yeah. Once or twice.
Did you meet her in that time?
Yeah.
How did that work out?
Not very well.
Why not?
I just don't like her. I hate her. I dislike her.
You hate your mother?
Yeah.
Why is that, Gale?
She put me away in the first place.
When you were in one children's home after another, you were always running away from them.
Yeah.
Wanting to get out. What made you unhappy in children's homes, do you say?
You were just, like, when you went to school, you felt different from the other kids. Because you couldn't, you couldn't take your mates home for tea and that, could you? So there was too many other kids back then, And you used to have labels in your clothes. You know, like your coats and your jumpers. And the kids used to say, what's that, you know? You felt odd. So in the end, I didn't like going to school. So I just used to run away.
But what about now? You left the children's homes. They need have nothing to do with you. But Mrs. David, the teacher, for instance, she still visits you.
Hello.
How do you feel about that?
I don't know, she wants to come visit me. Don't know why.
Don't you care whether she comes or not?
Well, it's nice to have somebody come visit you, innit? I don't think I'd really care though if she come or not.
How have you been spending the last few months before you came into hospital for treatment?
Fixing.
Fixing? What does that mean?
Taking heroin.
How did you start on that?
When I was in Borstal, they used to talk about it. And when I come out, I just thought I'd try.
Where were you living then?
Nowhere.
Or where did you sleep?
You used to sleep in the toilets during the day and then just go down the club and dance at night.
You used to sleep in the toilet?
Yeah. Sit on the floor and go to sleep. Put your coat around you.
What's going to happen with you in the future, Gale?
Don't know.
Would you like to get married one
No.
day?
No.
Why not?
Don't fancy it.
And you can't see anything to do other than take drugs?
No.
And what's the point of it all?
There's no point, really.
Well, why do you do it?
Wish I knew myself sometimes.
Well, how will you live when you get out?
National assistance. Or you can con it, ask people for a shilling. Soon works up to a lot.
Or beg for it?
Yeah.
You don't mind doing this?
No.
What kind of a state do you think you're in, Gale?
I don't think I'm in a state.
Are you happy the way you are?
Happy as I'll ever be.
What does that mean exactly?
Just happy as I'll ever be. What it says.
Have you been happy in the past?
I must have been when I was younger.
What do you mean when you were younger?
Well, I must have been happy sometime. Can't be miserable all your life.
Where do you think you're heading, Gale?
To die, I suppose.
To die?
Yeah.
But you're only 19. You have an IQ, they say, of 120.
That's,
makes
what they say. That's what they say.
And you're pretty.
Awful.
Do you think you're going to die?
Yeah, I don't mind that.
You don't mind dying?
No.
Why do you say that?
I don't know, I don't really want to live.
Gale was almost beyond help now. If she really didn't want to live, what could anyone do for her?
I feel very badly about her today. I feel much more depressed than I did last Saturday.
Why?
Well, when I came last Saturday, she'd just recovered from the worst part of her illness, and she was cheerful and in bed, and she knew she was too ill to do anything, but I fear she will leave before she's better now.
Leave of her own accord?
Yes, I don't think she'll stay there until she's better.
Why do you say this?
She's determined to destroy herself. She's determined. She's completely self-destructive. She doesn't have any will to get better.
What makes you say this, that she wants to destroy herself?
She does. She doesn't want to live in the world. She doesn't like the world. She doesn't want to live in it.
What about her family?
Her mother doesn't. She has no father, and her mother doesn't even know she's in here. And if she did know, I'm afraid it wouldn't work. They wouldn't be able to. They couldn't survive a visit. They couldn't survive a 20-minute visit.
What do you mean?
They would have a row.
Well, has she brothers or sisters?
No, she's an only child.
So she has nobody.
She has no one at all. She has no one. She's quite alone.
Except you.
Except me, but she doesn't really want me. She doesn't really want me. She's pleased to see me when I go, and I only hope that in her heart she really does know I do care. She must know that, no matter what she says. She must know I care.
On the South Devon coast, just outside the remote village of Tor Cross, there's a farm where the land runs down to the sea. The farm is owned by the Rue family. They saw Gale's interview on Man Alive and decided they wanted to help. They had children of their own, but Herbert and his wife Florence felt that they wanted to show Gale a different kind of life, and twice they had her down to the farm for a short holiday.
To begin with, it was a case of just wanting to let her see that there was a better side to life, you know, and that life could be lived to the full, and it wasn't just something desperate to be got over as quickly as possible.
How did you feel about her, considering the fact that you have young children in the house yourself?
Well, it didn't occur to us to begin with that there was going to be any danger, but after having spoken to some relatives about having her, and they said, oh, you know, I wouldn't have those children in the house and things, that I asked the people who we liaised with in London, you know, about the risk to this. Of course, our children had to come first, and they said, oh no, they thought she would probably smother the children with love rather than be at all vicious or anything, you know. She was very happy with the children, yeah. They often talk about her still.
Reginald used to go for walks with her?
Yes, and out in the field in front of the house. They walked around hand in hand together and would talk, just like two friends. They always wanted to go into her bedroom first thing in the morning to wake her up, you know, to have fun and games. They crawled all over her and pulled her hair and never gave her any peace, really, did they?
No, they like playing with them.
When she was here and she saw you with your children, did she ever make any comment about this?
Well, yes, the first, I think it was probably the second day she was here, I was scolding them for something. You know, I wasn't cuddling them or anything, but I was scolding them about being naughty, I think. And she looked at me then and she said, you know, it upsets me to see you with the children, because if I'd had a mother who cared for me as you care for your children, I wonder how I would have turned out. I wouldn't have ended up like this. And it struck me then because it wasn't as though I was holding them in my arms or anything, but that I was scolding them, you know, and the fact that it seemed to be this side of caring that she'd missed as well.
But holidays don't last forever, and soon Gale was back in another institution, Tooting Bec Psychiatric Hospital. She'd gone straight to Piccadilly, stolen money from a news vendor's stall, and was sent to a drug dependence clinic here. Most patients were old mental defectives, and in her unit she was surrounded by other addicts. But her thoughts often returned to the farm in Devon.
Dear Florence and all, I've been in another hospital since Monday night because I overdosed on barbiturates and they just brought me back today. I didn't really mean to do it, and I don't know why I did. I think I'm never going to come off drugs while I'm in this hospital because I'm just with other junkies all day and all we've got in common is drugs. I want to get off. At least I think I do, but at times I get so fed up I think I just want to die, and to me drugs seem the best way to do it. I wish I had somewhere to go when I do get off, because then at least I'd feel I had something to come off for. I wish Christmas would hurry up and come, because I was so happy when I was down there with you all. I really was, I mean that. I can't remember when I was so happy.
She wasn't to see the countryside again, nor play on the beach where she'd known something of the happiness of being a child. Had Gale ever indicated to Farmer Rue and his wife that if she'd been able to stay with them, it might have made just the difference?
Well, obviously we wonder just how it would have turned out, you know, and naturally we think, well, should we or shouldn't we? But when we think of the children, I think we couldn't have really done anything else, you know, from our own children's point of view. I mean, if they'd been older, perhaps been away at school, or you know, it may have been different, but the fact that they're so little, really.
The hardcore heroin addicts, almost beyond help, were now her only friends. She met them underground near the all-night chemists, where most of them took their prescriptions for drugs. Gale was now 18. She wasn't to know, but her last summer had ended. And by the time autumn and the dark nights came, her dependence on drugs was complete. This was how she lived the last few months of her life, in between spells in hospital. These were her friends, reduced to tramping the streets, looking for a place to rest. These were the ones, some seriously ill, all addicted to hard drugs, all young people who knew her best of all in the months before she died of barbiturate poisoning. Can you explain how a girl like Gale Parsons got onto drugs in the first place?
She got on the drugs the same way as we all did.
What's that?
Looking for kicks, I suppose.
Looking for the filth of this world, that's all. The filth of this world, getting away from it.
But what kind of a life is this? I mean, sitting here on the pavement, or you're down in the toilets, or you're hanging about Piccadilly Circus. Gale did all of this.
Yeah, well, Gale was in hospital for quite a while before she died, you see, you know? But Gale did this. She used to come out of hospital and come up here and hang about all day and go back to the hospital the last thing at night, you know, really sort of in a bad way, you know, through barbiturates. And the hospital knew it, and there's so many people coming out of hospitals, you know, in the daytime and going back in a state at night. And they come out the next morning, you know? And that was Gale's life, you know, for a long time before she died.
She was discharged by the hospital, just at a moment's notice. And she rang me up and said she was going to be discharged, and she was terrified. She was absolutely terrified. She rang up 3 times on the night that they told her she was going, simply terrified, and apologizing for getting me out of bed and saying, I can't settle.
What was she terrified of?
Well, she was terrified of going out. She kept saying to me, you know I won't be able to manage. You know I can't live in a flat. You know I can't live in a flat on my own. It was a death warrant to put her out into society at that point. She wasn't ready to go out.
Ready or not, Gale was discharged from hospital, and the authorities found her a bed-sitter above a shop in sprawling South London, miles from anyone she knew. One night, under the influence of drugs, she couldn't have known what she was doing. She set fire to her clothing and the flat. So the landlady said she must go.
On the Monday, I was aroused by the police to say that the flat had been found ablaze, and she in it. She'd been taken to King's College Hospital with multiple burns, none of which were severe. By the time I contacted the hospital, before 10 in the morning, she had discharged herself, against advice. And from that moment, she rang me twice. Each time she rang me during the night, about 3 in the morning. And the first time I answered the phone, said, is that Gale? And she said, yes. Where are you? I'm in the dilly, and I'm high. And I said, why didn't you ring me? You said you would. You could have come here to sleep. And she said, I've taken enough from you. I should finish it this time.
And how long was that before she died?
That was the first time, was on the Tuesday. On Thursday of last week, she rang me again about midnight, and I said, where are you? And she said, it doesn't matter, and if you ask me again, I will ring off, because you might be trying to trace me. And I said to her, you know, how are you? And she said, oh, I'm finished. I shall be finished. And I said, well, come to Morden, and I will collect you. You needn't be finished. And she said, no, but you will come to my funeral, won't you? And I said, oh, I'll be pushing the daisies up when you have your funeral, Gale. And she said, no, you won't. I'll be having my funeral soon. You will come, won't you? And I thought she was just high, although I really knew she was very bad. I could tell she was very bad. And I didn't hear. Then she rang off, and I didn't hear any more till the police told me she was dead on the Tuesday.
She'd been out of hospital just 8 days. When the police arrived, her body was huddled in this armchair. She'd put a blanket round her legs for warmth. Janet Bruton was one of the other addicts who invited Gale to share the basement hovel in which she died.
So next day in the morning, Richie found her. You know, I told Richie to wake Gale up. And
Who's Richie?
This is Richie sitting next to me. And Richie apparently said that she had took an overdose. This is what we thought at first. Then the colour of her face was a blue, greyish blue.
Blue in the nose, pouched.
Blue in the nose and her pinched nostrils. And I was shaking her, and Chris, my boyfriend over there, turned around and said that leave her alone, she's dead. Which I didn't believe, you know, I couldn't believe it. So I got panic and I ran out to the flour mill and I asked someone to phone the police as there was a death in my house. And I come back there and I kept staring at Gale, you know, and I kissed her, you know, shocked, you know, just seeing her like that. I still couldn't believe she was dead when I seen her. I thought she was alive, you know, until they actually took her away in the ambulance.
How long had you known her?
I've known Gale for about 3 years.
How did you get to know her?
Prison.
Can you tell me how Gale's days worked out at that time? What she did from getting up?
Well, she was with me. We went to the chemist. We used to go up Piccadilly. Then we'd go down to the APA, sit down in the APA.
The APA?
Which is the Association for Prevention of Addicts, run by Mr. Tony Sharples. Then me, Gale and Shirley and Chris, we'd go to a movie, see a movie.
What time of day was this?
This was in the afternoon. We'd come back here at night, have our last fix, use some barbiturates, go to bed, wake up. Then Gale maybe be sick, you know, but she'd try and laugh it off, you know.
Janet thought she knew everything about Gale, but there was one thing she didn't learn about until after Gale's death.
I was very surprised when I knew Gale had a mother. I come back one evening and my brother said that my sister-in-law said, Gale's mother and grandmother have just been round here. I offered them in for a cup of tea because they were very shocked and upset. And I says, oh, you're lying. I says, Gale never had a mother. And they says, no, Jan, have you seen this woman? This woman was so upset. It was a mother, you know. And she says she'd just been down to the mortuary to see Gale, and so I says, that's funny. I says, Gale always told me she was an orphanage.
We should have had the means, either here or elsewhere within the service, to be able to help Gale without rejecting her. She desperately needed somebody who wasn't going to. And this means different kinds of provision.
She was, in fact, free to do as she liked when she left here.
Well, she wasn't free when she went to the approved school, but as she moved out into society and as she was discharged from the various institutions, from prison, from Boston and so on, yes, she was a free agent. And in other words, she was free to kill herself. She was free to go on the dilly, she was free to go on the drugs, and short of stopping her in some way, she was free to die.
Are you saying that in a permissive society we must allow young people like Gale the right to kill themselves?
Well, this is a very difficult moral issue. You see, I think this is an issue of social policy. This is an issue of how far society is prepared to control people's movements in order to save themselves. I don't know. It's not an easy one to answer. One would say, for the sake of Gale, yes, we should have stopped her, but how? We could take her off drugs if we put her in prison. But if we put her in prison, we're merely teaching her to live in an enclosed institution. And maybe this is the only place in which she could have survived. I think it's a very difficult question to know whether society is prepared to control its deviant members, or whether in doing so we would not infringe a whole range of liberties which might be a danger to the total liberty of the subject. It's a very difficult question.
Here was a girl who had so much intelligence. She was a girl of so much quality. She was a girl who retained a capacity to love in all her despair, and who, when she was saying to us, I have destroyed myself, could still say to me at the end of December, but you loved me, didn't you? You didn't just like me, you loved me. Why? She was really still saying, oh, I might just have managed.
But need she have died?
It's very difficult to keep somebody alive who feels they haven't anything to live for. When she said to me in Charing Cross, after she'd said, I shan't be able to help small children now, she said to me, I shall die soon if I go on like this, Evan, shan't I? And I said, yes, my love, you will. And she shrugged her shoulders and said, well, it doesn't matter, does it? And I said to her, well, you feel you haven't anybody really who wants you to live? And she said, that's it. And she hadn't anybody, Mr. Williamson.
Girl of 19, who drank deeply assistant to this world, died unsatisfied. What a warning boy she is to millions of young people about to watch her on the sea of life. Today, we commence a season of Lent, when we think of Christ's victory over man's great enemy, Satan. Christ did not win this victory for himself alone, but for all those who, by faith, link themselves to him. Christ saves from past sins. Christ keeps us day by day. Christ has a wonderful future for us. For as much as hath pleased Almighty God in his great mercy, to take unto himself the soul of our dear sister here to come, we therefore commit her body to be consumed, in sure and certain hope of the resurrection to eternal life, through our Lord Jesus Christ, who shall change the body of our lower state, that it may be like unto his glorious body, according to the mighty working, whereby he is able to subdue all things to himself. I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me, Write, from henceforth, blessed are the dead which die in the Lord.
I didn't think that any of the things that was said or anything that happened had anything to do with Gale. I don't think that realistic things were said, and he didn't know her. He was talking about someone he didn't know. Nothing at all of that service was bearable to me. I thought it was terrible, terrible, all the old things trotted out. Gale herself would have laughed those to scorn. We'll never get a solution to these young people from that. There were young people there this morning of Gale's particular kind. If somebody had said to them, okay, this wasn't much of a life, you know, not really one of you ever really believed it would come to this, I would have said perhaps to them, if you know who gave her the first shot of heroin, just go back and tell them where it ended up. And tell them, don't give a shot of heroin to any other young person. I thought it was a sham. I wished I hadn't gone, if you want to know. I couldn't bear it. I couldn't bear it at all. It had nothing to do with Gale at all. Nothing.
I tossed my head and laughed, because I knew that I was free. When I am free, don't shake your head. I know I'm dead.